Greetings, ladies and gentlefish, and welcome to another pair of Chase the Ace games. Let me just quickly fiddle with a couple of settings. These two games are going to be from vehicles based on the Valentine chassis. Valentine tank was it was an infantry support tank developed by the British for the Second World War. So we kick proceedings off with the Valentine AT, which is a Tier 3 British tank destroyer. It's on the original tank destroyer line, the one that eventually culminates in the Death Star, the FV215B183. This, however, down here is the Valentine AT. Now, some of you may already be aware that I am not a massive fan of this tank. It's slow, it's ponderous. While it's based on the Valentine chassis, which has relatively good armour, the gun shield is tissue and made of ammo racks. And when I first played this machine, I used the 6-pounder gun on it because I thought it was more reliable. You know, 57mm gun, high rate of fire, decent enough penetration for its tier. Something like, what's it, 70 alpha damage, something like that. I can't remember the exact value. But there's a more consistent gun. For the purposes of getting an ace tanker on this machine, however, having seen some of the videos submitted, for example, by Mac, I'm actually fitting the 3.7-inch howitzer, because I thought a Tier 5 derp gun would give you a better chance of having those extreme games. You're going to have those games where you can't hit the broadside of a bomb from the inside, but you're also hopefully going to have those games where you go around one-shotting everything, and I'm hunting an ace tanker, so I want that latter sort of game. So, first things first, this is a Tier 5 game. Hello, Mr. Marder. And here's the thing with the howitzer, he's dead before I've even aimed at him. This is not a 100% crew, I should probably point out. Next target, ooh, I can just about see part of that M2 medium. Just the top of his turret. This is never going to hit in a month of Sundays. Now, the British Tier 5 howitzer has terrible shell velocity, as you can see there, but we actually managed to pick up the kill. However, as our shell was in mid-air, someone else puts damage into him. Yeah, so there we go. So this is a Tier 5 game. This is the worst matchmaking that the Valentine AT will see, although it's worth pointing out there are only 3 Tier 5s per side, so it's not that bad. And certainly with the Tier 5 derp gun, we can still do an awful lot of damage. Now, this game, I'm going to get a bit lucky at a couple of points. Not going to hide that. I'm not going to try and claim it's all skill. I mean, yeah, I could try and claim it, but that doesn't make it right. Churchill 3. And I managed to derp him in the face for 100-something damage, and dodge, return fire. Now it's a Churchill 3, he gets the 6-pounder gun, he's going to reload in 2 seconds, you know, much faster than I'm going to manage to do. So I'm just lying here in ambush to see if he, or anyone else, moves across this gap again, and if they do, I'm going to derp them in the face and then pull back. Like that. There's another 108 damage to him, and these are 3.7-inch howitzer shells, they're HE. You know, each one of these hits is also going to be taking out modules and generally giving him a bad day. T28. Good night, little tanky. And there's kill number 2. His armor sucks, and we one-shot him. Electo. He's potentially got the howitzer. He has got the howitzer. I don't bother aiming, and I one-shot him too. And now suddenly I'm on 8 health. Oh dear. Fire on the move, kill that Covenanter, desperately trying to get out of the way and not get wrecked. And you can see here the armour of the hull of the Valentine coming into play. But, alas, it's not enough to actually save me. And if people don't aim their shots, you can get some bounces from Tier 3 and Tier 4 machines on you. So that was actually a very short-lived little outing in the Valentine. But let's just watch this game to the conclusion. It's 10-9. We do have the slight upper hand, and now we're going to see a duel between a Matilda Black Prince and a regular Matilda. Our Matilda Black Prince is not angling his armour in the slightest, which is kind of irritating. He also doesn't appear to be aiming his shots particularly well, but nonetheless he manages to kill the enemy Matilda. Our Panzer 1C kills their Stuart, our FCM kills their AMX, and suddenly it's just the Churchill 3, who I was shooting earlier on, and a T-34. There's the T-34 in question. And the Churchill 3 is probably around there somewhere, as that's when I last encountered him. And here we can see our T1 putting shots into their T-34, setting him on fire, and it looks like the guy didn't bring or wishes not to use his fire extinguisher, and he is dead. That just leaves the Churchill 3 on the enemy team. I know he's taken some damage because I gave him some. which is nice. And this little Panzer 1C can hopefully find him somewhere, and hopefully not die for his troubles. I mean, you can't penetrate the Churchill with this little tank, but he can at least find him, scout him out, spot him, and hopefully then we can kill him. Let's just speed this along a little bit. And the enemy Matilda keeps reporting the Churchill's position, which is very easily a reportable offence in my opinion. You're just revealing an allied position. Don't ever do that. I don't care what your reason is. Churchill nails our Panzer 1C, but the rest of our team now have a reasonable idea of where he is. And here's the T1 Heavy. He's got the massive health advantage. This engagement's never really going to go any other way as he polishes off the Churchill, and that's the game. So it was actually quite a short little outing in the Valentine AT. I only fired 6 shots, all of them hit. And the score screen will tell you that all of them penetrated. That's just because the shots that I took on the Churchill did module damage, hence the penetrations. But they weren't penetrating HE shells in the sense that they didn't do full damage to the Churchill, full HP damage. But because we were one-shotting people, and it was a close-range engagement against higher-tier machines generally, we racked up a good amount of experience, which is nice. And so that was this game, and as it's in this sort of video, that was actually an ace tanker. Okay, so clearly an ace tanker, 12,500 credits and 1,600 experience. How does that actually break down? Well, we finished second on our team, 4 kills, 953 damage, 822 base experience, which is not too shabby. The Panzer 1C actually came top of our team. I think he picked up, I can't remember exactly what medal that is, but I think it was patrol duty or something like that. You know, for his spotting damage, or possibly scout or something along those lines. On the enemy team, commiserations to the enemy Matilda in particular, picked up 1,100 damage and 4 kills, and was still on the losing team. It's unlucky for him, unfortunate for him. But you can see that in terms of damage, we did the highest damage on our team, and if you include the enemy team, second highest damage in the game, in a tier 3 tank destroyer, in a tier 5 game. So, not too shabby. 6 shots fired, 6 hits, 6 penetrations. Bear in mind that, you know, just because it says penetration doesn't mean it was a penetrating HE shell that did full damage. I mean, if it blew off a module, that would have counted as a penetration. 953 damage. I received 8 hits, of which 4 penned and 4 bounced, which is interesting. I mean, the armour on this thing can give you the occasional bounce, but you certainly can't rely on it. And 154 assistance damage. Once you'd taken away repair and ammunition costs, which were fairly cheap, made 10,500 credits profit with a standard account. With a premium account, that'd have been 17,000 credits profit. There we go. Or an ace tanker in the Valentine AT. Okay, so here we are with the second game in the British Matilda. Not the Matilda, God, what am I doing? The Valentine. So it's a pair of Valentine-based games today. So I tried getting the ace tanker with this for some time using either the 6-pounder or mainly the 75mm gun, but without success. I got a number of first classes, but no actual success. I mean, this thing suffers from having a terrible gun selection. The 75mm and 6-pounder guns have awful rates of fire. Their accuracy is not very good, aim time's not very good, all that jazz. And so, after searching out some advice on the forums, I actually switched back to the stock turret and the 2-pounder gun. Stock turret, as you can see there, gives this tank phenomenal gun depression, also makes it a bit lighter, and the 2-pounder gun, although it has lower penetration, it massively boosts your DPM. It also has lower alpha damage. So, we've got 78 pen and 50 average damage with AP, and that pen goes up to 121 with APCR, and you'll see that this thing only carries 6 shells, despite the fact that they're only 40mm shells, and I'm taking 45 AP and 15 APCR because I'm using the stock gun, and I'm going to need that APCR if I get into a tier 6 game. Now actually, as it turns out, I'm going to need that APCR if I get into a tier 4 game, which this is. This was only maybe the third game I'd played, second, maybe even the first, I can't remember, game I'd played with this tank using this setup. So I didn't really know how it was going to go.
First blood.
Anyway, we are on Highway. It's a tier 4 game, so we're top tier, which is nice. And really what you want with this gun. I mean, this is an all or nothing kind of setup. And I could have just spammed complete APCR, but I really didn't want to, because that's going to be a very expensive way to play this machine, and a lot of the time against many targets. Although the penetration isn't fantastic, your armor piercing will suffice. So in this game, for instance, my APCR will probably come in use against if I face the Matildas and possibly the Hetzers. I wasn't sure. Oh, and the AMX-40. I wasn't sure if my armor piercing could regularly penetrate the Hetzer's lower plate. So there's that. But certainly, mainly against the Matildas, this APCR will be useful. And there's a DW2. But no, I don't. I was about to line up a shot, and then that jarring was that A20 ramming into my rear. Some yourself 40 out there damages my tracks. I've clearly been spotted, so I decided to pull back before I take any more damage. Alas, of course, that means I have already used my repair kit, which is not optimal, but there we go. I didn't want to just get blatted by tank destroyers that I couldn't see. So I'm switching to APCR now, as I'm expecting to be engaging a Matilda. So, with APCR, I'm basically using the gun from the Matilda. I've got, because the Little John adapter on the 2-pounder, which is the Matilda's top gun, brings the penetration up to 121. And really, that's how they could buff this tank, because it is in dire need of a buffing. Give it one more shot. Goodbye, Matilda. Give it the option to mount the 2-pounder with the Little John adapter that you see on the... and I switch back to armor piercing, that you see on the Matilda. And now I'm just going to use my rate of fire to blitz this guy. Angle the armor, angle. I take a couple of hits from him, and then kill him. He's taken out my commander, put the commander back in. So I've taken 2 shots from him, and they went in. First one was in the side there, and second one was through the turret side. So yes, so far we have racked up 2 kills, and we are in the process of heading back to our base, as our base is relatively undefended, and the only guy we had on the other side of the river, our Panzer B2, just got taken down by a Hetzer. So they're going to need me heading back toward the base to defend it, and this is where the gun depression is going to come in useful, because what I'm going to do I could not have done with the top turret and one of the quote-unquote better guns. Now, there's actually been quite a lot of discussion recently on the EU forums about this machine. People have been asking questions, and it was on one of those threads that I said, look, anyone got any advice? And
We didn't even scratch them.
bounced. The consensus seems to be that it's the guns on this machine, goodbye, that really need to be better. The armour's fine, the mobility, considering the armour's okay. I mean, the armour's not brilliant, it's not as well armoured as a Matilda. But if they gave this thing, if it were a viable option to use like a 2-pounder gun with the Little John adapter, say, and this turret, you'd have a really interesting tank that relied on its gun depression and a rapid firing gun, because historically the Matilda had fantastic gun depression, but in game the Soviet Matilda 4 at tier 5, confusingly enough, does have phenomenal gun depression, but the regular gun depression, the gun depression on the regular Matilda in the British tech tree has kind of been gimped compared to its historical values. And I'm not saying the Matilda needs a buff, I don't mind that gimping, but I think that leaves the option open to really give this machine something special. And T80 has respectable armour, but I've penetrated 1 shot so far, then bounced 2, and I load an APCR round, and then he gives me his side, for which I didn't need APCR, but there we go. So both of the Matildas are down, and oh, there's a Hetzer. Side of a Hetzer. We will just plough shot after shot into him. Oh, and he's going for artillery. Alas, we can't really do much about that. So we're now on 4 kills. There's 3 of us remaining, and there's 5 the enemy left. One of our tanks is a Matilda, which is nice, but they do have 2 Hetzers, which are very, very dangerous. So, swings and roundabouts. The other thing to bear in mind is that our Matilda is nowhere near our base. He is over by the enemy base, and the enemy just killed Armada 38T. So, this is not a Kolobanov's situation. I can't actually contend to Kolobanov's medal here, but I am standing alone against whoever is coming over toward our base, as our Matilda is nowhere useful. Now, I'm firing APCR here and just popping it through his lower plate, using the gun depression to expose as little of my tank as I possibly can, and then I switch back to armor piercing. So, the Matilda has found the enemy artillery, not a great surprise, and kills him, so this situation could potentially be me versus 3 enemy tanks. There's at least one other enemy, as he's in the cap circle. And the cap counter is actually going up relatively quickly, so I'm wondering at this stage, is it 1 person in the cap circle, or is it 2? I'm honestly not sure. Matilda also kills the M2 medium, who is over by their base, so that leaves me to face an AMX, well, at least one of an AMX-40 and a Hetzer, possibly both. I've loaded the APCR because these guys are both pretty tough targets to crack. And there's the AMX-40, side of the turret. It was just him capping, there's the reset. Put 2 shots in and then he pulls back. So there's just the one guy capping, we still don't know where that Hetzer is. Maybe the Hetzer's gone back to defend the friendly base. Now, the AMX-40 has pretty terrible gun. Even if you fire heat out of that gun, it's not good, as he appears to. And that shoulder piece on the AMX-40 is weak. Oh, that was a bad bounce. But there we go, we managed to pick up the kill. Now, he kills our driver, which is suboptimal, and oh Christ, there's a Hetzer. But the Hetzer just knocks out our tracks. I'm not actually sure what gun this guy's using. This is a dubious situation. What the hell is he doing? Yep, it turns out armor piercing is perfectly capable of going through the lower plate of a Hetzer from this tank. Although not always. You just have to be a little bit careful, and goodbye Mr. Hetzer. Kill number 7. And there we go. We managed to carry our team to victory. Using the stock turret and the 2-pounder, the stock 2-pounder gun. And well, if you're going to try this setup, realistically, you probably want to carry more APCR than I did, because I used all of my APCR, and I wasn't just spamming it against targets that didn't need it, but I used all of my APCR, and this was a tier 4 game. You only carry 60 shells with this gun, and you can see that I've used almost 40 of them to get this win, so yeah, bear that in mind. Anyway, we managed to pull it out of the bag, and as it's in this video, that was an ace tanker. So, that ended up being a pretty nice game. 16,500 credits earned, 1900 experience, that's including of course my ×2. A whole bunch of wee little ribbons there, including things like fire for effect. Is that unbreakable or something for bouncing 1000 damage or something like that? In terms of the actual awards that anyone cares about, Defender, High Caliber and Top Gun. Every target that we damaged, we also killed, which is kind of nice. 1164 damage, 7 kills, 939 base experience. And the Matilda on our team, I mean, in my opinion, pushing onto the enemy base when he did was the wrong thing to do, but he still pulled out the 2nd highest damage on our team. And if you include the enemy team, he was the 3rd highest damage dealer. I was 1st. Not too shabby. Whoops-a-daisy. 38 shots fired, 35 hits, 27 penetrations. Received 7 hits, 3 penetrated, 4 didn't. So the armor's okay. Blocked 810 damage with my armor, and we maxed out on defense points for defending the base. Now, of that 16,500 credits, because we fired all 15 rounds of our APCR, we spent almost 19,000 credits on ammunition. So with a standard account we actually lost 3,000 credits for that game. If it would been running a premium account, we'd have made just over 5,000 credits. So the fact that you, with that setup, fire quite a lot of APCR does obviously eat into your profitability, but I was playing this to get the ace, not to play it for consistent results, you know. I don't like this tank, so having received the ace, I'm never going to touch it again, and be very happy with that situation. But there we go. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed that pair of games in British Valentine based machines. If you did, please feel free to catch some of my other videos and or subscribe to my channel, and I wish you very happy hunting on that battlefield. Ciao ciao.